And we've made it to Gold League. Alright guys, we are starting off today's Gold 3 onwards part of Bronze to GM. We are going to be going over all of this. I'm not going to go over every bit right now. Suffice to say, we do go to Hydras with the next part of our build that we're going to start slowly developing. We don't need to rush to it just yet. We're going to kind of tack that on as a second piece to the build and make it a bit more natural. We're going to start spreading creep with an early third queen. Start trying to do an overlord sacrifice to get an idea of what our opponent's up to each game at 3:45. Be a bit better with our map vision, 4 Zerglings early. And as we deal with bullshit from our opponents, we're going to start looking at not, oh, how do I be safe versus everything? We're not meant to be safe versus everything in StarCraft. Safe versus everything is fucking bad StarCraft. It is really bad StarCraft. But we can talk about how to look at our replays and break it down and go, what do I do next time I'm in that scenario? Writing out reaction lists. We're also going to talk a lot about a bunch of fundamental habits and where our eyes are moving while we're playing, which I did not talk about in the previous sessions. We were talking about just building those base skills. So keep in mind, this is an incredibly information-dense way of teaching. For those of you who are watching this and are serious about learning and want to improve, there is, in each one of these videos, more than you could practice in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You need to check out this shit. You need to actually have the document open. Oh, I'm gonna work on just this 1 or 2 things at a time. If you want to put this into practice, do it that way. A couple of the big habits while we find match here. Tapping unit production. So we're going to try and talk about building that as a habit, just in between tasks. Just queue up a few extra drones, queue up a few extra drones. So to do that, we need to always know what unit we are building as a player in a game of StarCraft, okay? So you're always on a track. A lot of people I see, they go, ooh, it's time to build things. And I can see the cogs turning. You're like, select lava. What should I... No. You're already taking way too long. If you're doing that, you're already taking way too long. You should already know it beforehand. So that's main base, natural, 3rd, 4th, 5th camera locations. We've got this overlord, which we'll just remember. Click outside our natural. And keep building drones. Now, we're not going to bother doubling up workers or anything like that yet. We will try to limit the details that I focus on. So early on, it's always going to be drones. Later on, it'll probably always be army. And if we're really unsure, we'll just go 50-50. Build some drones, build some army. Thank you for the subs, guys. Also, we're going to be trying to work on keeping an eye on our macro a little bit as well. Looking at our money and our supply is going to be what we're looking at as we do macro cycles later. If we have too much money, then we can add macro hatches down. And if we have too much supply, we can skip a round of overlords. So we're going to take this guy down here and build a hatchery. Notice it's so easy to move around when you get used to using your camera locations. Main, natural, 3rd, main, natural, 3rd. We're going to build a hatchery, add it to the control group, double tap, recenter our camera location, and then set the rally points. Build a gas, build more drones, build more drones. So we're just trying to remember the build order, guys. 17 pool, 17 hatch, 17 gas. Gas could have gone down a little bit faster there, but it's not a big deal. Now remember, ooh, let's put 2 guys on gas straight away. We wanted to build some Zerglings straight away this time around, but we are almost supply bulk. So let's build this overlord first. And remember, we need that ring of vision. So that overlord can go there. This guy can go out there. And we are missing 1 worker on gas, aren't we? So let's just put that there, and then we can build 1 drone. We're going to replace it. Why? Because that's 16 out of 16. And then we can do that. Oh, Dot's coming in to move me off the command card, aren't you? Zerglings are going to go across the map, guys. And we're just going to look at the entrances outside our opponent's base. So Zerg, so he's going to have a queen. So we're going to be careful with our overlord. Move that back. Queue up the second queen. Move the first one down after injecting. Drones, drones, overlords. So check this out, guys. Tapping. Notice I'm cycling between hatchery key, Zergling key. Hatchery key, Zergling key. Hatcheries build drones. Move overlord, move overlord, move overlord. I don't actually need to move this overlord around now, but in between, I will select my hatchery and build drones. So that's a really good habit that we want to start building, and that's that tapping that production that I was talking about, which I didn't really... I did it a little bit in the previous session, but I didn't really talk about it. So remember, we don't want to inject straight away. We want to wait for them to be ready. Then we can do a full macro cycle, build drones, and build overlords. Oh no, I spent all the lava there. So we need to wait for another lava to pop out. Then we'll build an overlord. We want to complete that ring of vision, so we're going to click it out there. Now our Zergling Scout will die, no worries. This is interesting because this is Zerg versus Zerg. So rather than having a ring of vision, it's kind of more important to have vision through the middle of the map to see when they're coming for you. So we're going to build this Overlord can go there. Roachhorn, because we're at 36 supply, and it's macro cycle time. Inject, inject, build drones, and build Overlords. And all the rest of our Overlords can click to the back because we've got enough out on the map. Now guys, we're under attack. So what do? We're going to move our drones. Let's build another queen to replace it. And if he runs away, then we will attack move. Okay, I guess we'll... Anyway, this is where you build... So attack move drones. Now, if you want, you can attack move and then shift back to the minerals, but they might chase for a long time, so you got to be careful with that. So continue our build. Inject, inject. Sorry, not inject, inject. Gas, gas, gas. He's making banelings in the corner of my base, the cheeky bugger. And remember, select the hatchery, build drones, click on gas. Select the hatchery, build drones, put on gas. Okay, so this game is a bit of a shit show, as we are just trying to remind ourselves of this build order. We're missing drones here, 13 out of 16. So notice I'm jumping between my bases and checking saturation. Build 4 drones, click it. Build a drone, click it. And we still need 2 more drones on that as well. Inject, inject. Notice everything's off sync right now, which kind of sucks, right? Need some Overlords as well. Everything being off sync kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Now, luckily, despite all the chaos, we are at 45 drones, 2 base. So what do we do here? We build roaches. 3rd base just got sniped. We're just going to rebuild it. Now, obviously, my mechanics are super clean and smooth, and we could talk a little bit more about ZVZ and what we might do to change up this matchup here, which is going to be a perfect kind of variant on our build order, because ZVZ is a matchup which is going to demand a bit of safety, and we were waiting for this to happen. Now, there's a lot of people who, they always go, oh, your build order is dangerous versus this, or what you're doing isn't good versus that. Now, that's actually really good, because that's kind of one of the best ways to learn in StarCraft. Now, obviously, if I move my roaches to the mineral line, that would be a little bit better, because they wouldn't be surrounded there as easily. But instead, no advanced micro. I'm just focusing on constantly building roaches and injecting. That's all we're doing here, just keep injecting despite the chaos. Keep building Overlords, keep building roaches, keep injecting, keep building roaches. And we see Mutalisks. Oh no, that's a big problem, isn't it? So, let's build a Hydra den. And what are we going to do, guys? We're going to wait for roach speed, and then we're going to try and attack with all these roaches, okay? So the roaches are going to go across the map now, and let's run away from these mutas for a second, and now let's go for it. So, we're building some Overlords as we're very supply capped. We're going to go and put that there. So we're building spores covering all of our bases. And we're just going to move our roaches across the map. So notice I'm re-droning here. So we're going between our bases, checking the saturation, and we're re-droning it. And then we're going to queue up both Hydra upgrades, make sure we don't forget them. Now it's tempting at this point to build Hydras. But we're actually going to build roaches first of all. And the reason for that is we're worried about the lings on the ground first and foremost. Now, because we're only on 2 base, we are kind of forced into an all-in attack right now. So we're just going to try and make Hydras and keep doing it. So guys, notice I just selected my hatcheries and I'm tapping, even in between production cycles. Now, because my macro cycles are both split, let's just wait a moment for this one, and let's just get them back on center, just to make it easier for ourselves as a player to chill out. Let's also, this is our creep queen, creep/defense queen, number 4. So we're going to try and be building that habit today. So inject, inject, build Hydras. That's a lot of Mutalisks. Oh my god. So in this scenario, I'm actually going to take my injecting queens as well, because I'm so afraid of dying to these Hydras, and I'm going to put them all on number 4, so that I can easily bring these queens to the front to help me defend. So notice I'm selecting the hatchery, build Hydra. Select a hatchery, build overlord. I'm just trying to tap that in between. Whenever you don't have anything going on, we want to try and build that habit. And we are in a corner. We're getting our ass kicked right now. We're getting destroyed, right? Awesome. So give yourself a simple plan. Whenever you're behind, we're going to make enough Hydras to beat the mutas, and hopefully we can kill them before they build enough stuff to kill the roaches and the Hydras on the ground. And that's about it. So we want both upgrades to be done. One of them's finished, the other one's halfway done. Seems like a good time to move out. So we're just going to A move. We're going to add a few more roaches and a few more Hydras behind this. The roaches are better tank units, so they're much better versus Zerglings and Banelings and that sort of stuff. And, oh, and there is Banelings. Okay, so this is where we're going to get really advanced, guys. We are going to set up a big old spready. Unfortunately, they're clumping up. So we need to pull back now. We are dead. If we win this game, it's going to be pretty legendary. And then split like Maru if you can. But GG, this is really well played by my opponent. That's fantastic. Alright, really well played. This is sick micro and everything. 68 workers? 10 minutes in, melee, carapace. Is this person smurfing? Wow, incredible play. I mean, my opening was pretty shit, but to have that many bases at that time, definitely seems like a stream sniper, which is always fun. Which is fine. It's an opportunity to learn. How many control groups do I need as a gold Zerg? Wrong question, Droid Gaming. You can play with no control groups if you want. Technically, you could get to GM with just control grouping your hatcheries. It's all about how you feel like playing. It's all about how you feel like playing, guys. So mechanics are something that enables you to play. So it's never you need mechanics. There are always, what it's really about. The question you should ask yourself is how much work are you willing to put in to practice something? Because if you're not going to be a super grindy professional musician / coder who's used to control group setups and everything, who's used to learning mechanical habits, you probably don't want to learn 7 different control groups. But we talked about it in the previous session. We have hatcheries on 1, army on 2, defense queens on 4, and at some point we'll be able to use 3 for a second army. Now we can add more keys on top of that, but basically all the way through bronze to GM, for them until we get to like masters, we're probably not going to bother using any more than that. And that's as much as a lot of pro gamers only use that as well. So check that out. So in terms of the build order, this has raised a big problem for us. We're playing Zerg vs Zerg exactly the same as the other matchups. Pig, that's dangerous, it's bad. It's no. You know what? That's a good point. We are being a little bit greedy for this matchup, but we have a rule. We're not going to. Until we hit Gold 1 or Platinum 3, we're not learning different builds for each matchup. Can we make a little variation here or there, though? Could we make a small adaptation or adjustment? How can we be a bit safer in Zerg vs Zerg? Well, this is something where, for those who've been watching this, you would notice we've been learning my beginner opening. Now, in my beginner build opening, it's got a few little differences in it. So one thing is building safety roaches, or banelings, depending on what composition you're going. And that's something I have not been doing at all so far in bronze to GM. Why? Because we've just been keeping the build as simple as possible and saying, look, if we can just get 2 bases of workers, really simple, then build roaches, it's a way more basic game plan. But if you actually look at my beginner build order, it says not only do we get 36 supply build a roach warren, which should have actually been down a while ago. We were kind of talking through quite a few different little mechanics and stuff, doing a bit more explaining. Should have been about 3 minutes, probably. The roach warren should have gone down. And the idea is you're meant to build a bunch of safety units at the moment that finishes. Okay? So that might be something you just do by default in Zerg vs Zerg if you want to be super safe. Or we might even learn a different build, which we will get to learning a different build for Zerg vs Zerg in the near future. An alternate, maybe you build a spine at like, I don't know, 2 minutes 45 or something like that. Just your natural, just to have a little bit of and otherwise you do the build exactly the same. The important thing is you never want to be completely drastically changing your build. So if you guys are getting rushed always in ZVZ, you know, you might need to learn different things. Now keep in mind, this is a 2-base couple of Zerglings that harassed into a bunch of Zerglings a bit later after this. This was actually pretty light harassment from my opponent. All things said, if your opponent's doing a 1-base rush, it's a completely different sort of thing. Wait, so how do I rank versus 1-base? How do I rank versus 2-base? How do I... Ooh, and now you see the kind of well we're getting into with just how much shit we could talk about. It's like, well, if you don't 1-base this or 2-base this... We're going to start dipping our toes into that this session a little bit with trying to get an idea of what's going on. Keep in mind the general rule, guys. If your opponent doesn't have an expansion, in all matchups, at 3 minutes 30, stop building workers, build fighting units, build spores as well, especially if you're against Terran or Protoss, especially, and scout them. Get Zerglings, send an Overlord, try and figure out what the fuck's going on. In this matchup as well, we actually want a slightly different Overlord pattern to the other matchups. We were just doing the normal one, same for all 3 matchups, but if we want to be very particular about it, we actually want to change it. So we would prefer to have 2 Overlords outside their base, 1 here, and then 1 over here. And then we would want to put 1 outside our base, and then we would put 1 in the middle of the map. And this allows you to kind of see the back and forth of the Zerglings, the Banelings, the Roaches, and all that sort of stuff. So that's actually a really useful small little tweak if you already want to get started on that and you're super advanced. Other than that, I think we did okay this game. Our opponent was just way better than us. They did a bit of damage with these Zerglings, and you'll notice that you could tell they weren't in a lower league because of the way they ran the Zerglings away. This is pretty rare, the way they like kept disengaging and then re-engaging and disengaging. So notice he goes in, fights. If he just fights, the drones kill them, maybe you lose 1 drone. Easy peasy. But instead, he does a lot more damage by continuing to avoid the fight and deny mining time by running around. And he's producing drones behind it. So my opponent's producing off control groups while microing Zerglings. These are a few tips that you might be out of your depth. And that's going to be that. Let's go straight into another game and just keep talking through it. So you don't want to focus too much on this stuff, guys. So we've got someone there with a platinum border, by the looks of it. Punoko Gungadin. It's going to be a Zerg versus Protoss on Blackburn. Okay, guys. So Overlord, straight to the opponent's natural, or we can even just get it on the pillar. We can kill it there. Good luck, have fun, and some love hearts. Wow, okay. So we've got an Overlord building, of course, and we're going to just do our builds. Pig lost to Gold League player. Arrow points at Pig, sad face. My first 2 games in Bronze to GM, I lost to Silver and Bronzes, guys. So for everyone who didn't watch the start of it, I'm explaining how to control group things, and I was just getting wrecked. I was getting absolutely wrecked. So remember, Overlord over the natural, and then out front. And what do we do now? We get a 17 pool, 17 hatch, 17 gas. So I think the little subconscious thing that I'm noticing here. Oh, pylon block. Awesome. So what you're going to do is you want to pull 2 drones down straight away. However, let's assume it's going to be a block. Let's just go straight to our 3rd base. Okay. Now I'm still going to attack the probe because whenever I see a probe in my base, I attack it. Why? Because he might cannon rush or do some bullshit. And it's just not a bad idea when anyone scouts you to just attack it with a worker. Gas after the hatchery. But especially against just tell it to attack it, and when he pisses off out of our base, we can stop following him. And otherwise, keep doing your normal build and just put extra focus on doing it. Why? Because we are going to be in a slightly different position to normal, aren't we? This is going to be a little bit more awkward than normal. We're not going to be used to this, are we? Because it's going to be that little bit different. So check it out. He's going home. We can just send that drone to go mine from our 3rd base, or even our gas actually. So then we have 1, 2, 3, all on the gas. Guess what, guys? That means we can rally to our 3rd. Now, our Zerglings will go across the map. Notice we don't see an expansion just yet, but we don't want to pay attention to it yet. We're not paying attention to that. Inject, send the queen down to the third. It'll get there a little late. Who cares? We are following our build the exact same way it normally is played. Exact same way. So we're going to try to send those lings in. Maybe, actually, let's not. Let's just do normal Zergling things. Let's just have one out front and one further back to see when our opponent moves out. And selecting hatcheries, tabbing produce. Select hatcheries, build drones. Select hatcheries, build drones. Select hatcheries, build drones. Select hatcheries, build drones. Looking around, selecting hatcheries, building drones. Selecting hatcheries, build drones. Tabbing to do that, guys, is absolutely massive. Now remember, we wait on this first inject, and then we build drones and overlords. Ling speed's already on the way. We need overlords, so we go overlord there, and that's going to complete our ring of vision around our base. Now we're at 36 supply, so remember it should be closer to 3 minutes that this roach warren goes down for safety, right? Let's build that, let's keep going. So inject, build drones, build overlord, and the overlords can just get clicked in the back now. And remember guys, it's 3:30. So we're going to send an overlord in. Normally we'd do that at 3:45, but we're going to do it a bit early this game, just to check if he's got an expansion, kind of see what's up. Now all we see is basic units. Looks like he's chrono boosting workers, so this looks pretty normal. Now we're almost at 44 supply. We tap our hatcheries and build some drones, so indeed we are 44, 45 supply. We build a hatchery, we add it to the control group, we center it, macro cycle, inject, build drones, build roaches, overlords, not roaches. And now we go, oh, it's time to take gases, isn't it? Oh, cool. Get the lair and the 4 gases up. And we are having a very nice time of it. So this is really cool. Now, I wanted to talk about something else today, guys. And let's just tap build drones. Let's sort out our gases first, because there's a lot of stuff to do with the build this early. But after this cycle, there's going to be moments between our macro cycles, and this base is a bit undersaturated, so we're going to build drones there and click them on the minerals. Because they're both saturated now, we can just rally them to that base and build some overlords ahead of time. Okay, so what do you do when you've done a macro cycle? We've still got 20 seconds. What do we do? Okay, well, a good habit is just run Zerglings in. See what you're up against. Well, that looks pretty normal. We don't really know. Let's bounce between our bases and check the saturation. So we can grab 3 workers off that, send it to the natural. And guess what? Time for another macro cycle. Inject, build roaches now. We're into the roach production, and build overlords for the last few larvae. And then what do we do? Run the Zerglings in. Okay, well that one died. Let's just run this guy. And what else can we do? Well, that isn't the best scout, so let's make an overseer. And we're going to queue that through the main base and out the back. Because we don't really... It's making void rays, DTs, I don't know. Now, remember we said in the last session, in a kind of normal game, you don't know what's going on. I think it was about 4:45 we can put down spore crawlers. We're doing it a bit later, but we don't know what's going on. We've got plenty of money, we might as well. Inject. Let's build another queen there. And then build roaches and build overlords. Guess what, guys? I'm not building overlords this time. Why? Where are our eyeballs going while we're doing a macro cycle? The top right. That's a massive supply gap. So we are only building roaches right now. We're not building anything else. I'm going to start that roach speed as well. So in between, that was actually... Why did I know to start roach speed? Because I was going to go check my bases. Main, natural, third. You see they're all pretty nicely saturated. Technically could use a few more drones there, but that's fine. And then, Overseer. And what do we see? Void Rays! Okay, so we've got an even better excuse to learn the next part of the build. What are we going to do? Build a Spore, build a Hydra Den. We're going to build some more drones. And guys, the Void Rays are all there. So, in this scenario, none of our stuff shoots up, which kind of sucks. So what are we going to do? Our roaches are going to go across the map and get ready. So if he runs into my base, I don't have anything that shoots up. People go, oh, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. We're not. Why? Let's build lots of drones for this third base, by the way. Drones. Because if he comes across with the Void Rays, my roaches will run in and kill his shit. So we can run the Zerglings in. Is he taking a third base? Oh, he's already got one up. So we're not going to do it straight away, but we can basically just wait. And we're going to send them to the top, all of our roaches. And what I'm even going to do is I'm going to use that Alt command. Do you guys remember Alt? We're going to turn this into my second army. So I'm going Alt 3. So that now is a backstab squad. That's not my main army. We're now going to go both Hydra upgrades, and we go, ooh, time for another inject. Macro cycle, inject. Build some drones, not too many, because this base is almost full. And then build lots of overlords, and then build Hydras. And the Hydras are on number 1. And now that those Void Rays are coming, oh shit, the Roaches need to go in. So, what are we doing? Where's supply blocks? I'm building overlords. And we're going to try to get our opponent to freak out a little bit. So we're going to run into the natural to do more damage rather than the third. But, oh, he's here with his Void Ray. So if we're really smart, we've already forced the recoil. We can just run those away. Shift, put them back to where they were before. Inject, inject, inject. Looks like that queen died. Build Hydras. And build a few overlords, though we're not going to need any more overlords. We're almost capped on overlords. Now, in between the macro cycle, grab a few drones, oversaturate, take 2 gases, make sure they're all rallied here. Oh, it's oversaturated, isn't it? Why don't we just take the drones and put them on straight away? Just get it done. Get it done immediately. Check out upgrades. You know what we've forgotten with this style? Remember what we've written in the notes. Double Evo chamber. So when we go past the roach stage of the game, we not only want Hydras added to our roaches, we also want a double Evo chamber. Sorry guys, I broke a macro cycle then. Bad habit. You shouldn't do that unless you're very high level. Roaches are going to backstab again. Hydras are going to A-move. And we go, oh, he killed my base. So we'll just build 2 bases. If your opponent kills a base, build 2 is just a general rule that you should do. So if we want to focus fire, we could just A-move these roaches. Let's not do anything fancy. Now, inject, inject. Can't inject. Build Hydras. And our last 2 overlords, guys. Our last overlord or 2. We can click that back there. The roaches aren't really doing that much, but that's okay. My opponent only has Void Rays and we have Hydras. Hydras are the much better unit. So, oh, we could probably go kill him if we want. Let's make upgrades. Let's check our bases. The saturation looks good. But what else should we be checking? And I haven't talked about it this game. Map vision. Our map vision sucks. So I'm going to build 2 Zerglings. Click them here. Build 2 Zerglings. Click them here. Build 2 Zerglings. Click them here. And I'm also going to go to my overlords where I've clicked them in the back. And we're going to grab 4 of them and go, you guys go there. Shift deselect. You go there. Shift deselect. You go there. Actually, we're going to do an advanced one. We're going to tell them both to poo. This hotkey, whatever that hotkey is for you guys. And then we're going to go, you move there. Shift hold position. Really advanced mechanic. You move there. Shift hold position. So we're telling the overlords to actually poo on the expansion so my opponent can't take it. That's a really advanced one. It's just fun to show you guys cool tricks at the same time. And the hold position means that when it gets attacked, it won't run away. It'll sit there and poop for as long as it can until it dies. So at this point, I think we can go kill our opponent, hey? Why? Because what have we been doing? We've been doing nothing but build Hydras. Remember what was the rule for attacking with roaches? Does anyone remember? It's not, oh, is he weak? Am I strong? I attack here. Do I attack there? The rule was always very simple. And it was, if you've only been building army for a little while, for a few rounds, you probably can win the game with said army. So we're just going to A-move these Hydras in. Against carries, you don't want to move underneath them. You just want to attack, move, and kill all the interceptors. Now, because the interceptors, notice they're all gone. The carriers don't do any damage anymore. Now at this point, if there's a battery overcharge, that's a very important piece of micro, is click on that battery overcharge to get rid of it. Inject, inject, inject. Build Hydras. Why do I have so little of it? Because I've been producing by tapping. So even while I'm in the fight, I would A-move, select hatchery, build Hydra. Add to control group, select Hydras, move forward, A-move. Hatcheries, build Hydras, add to control group, reselect control group, move in, attack move. Now, if this is a situation where my opponent has Psystorm or Disruptors or anything that I need to be like spreading Hydras out against or anything, I'm not going to be doing that as fluidly. And when you're getting used to it, you're probably going to do a little bit more of tunnel visioning on your fights and just staring at it. And that's totally fine. It doesn't matter. You guys can just stare at the fight. Go, okay, let's move in here. Move in. Let's get in here. That's totally fine. But as you get better at realizing there's nothing else I can do here. My units are fighting pretty well. Build Hydras. Build more Hydras. We don't need to save lava for overlords anymore. So that's one of the beauties of hitting max. And then we can start 2-2. And... oh! Our Hydras kill. Awesome! Awesome! So, the big problem, the big weakness of our build, we're starting to sort out by having that transition off the roach attack today. Now, we still want to go for the roach attack and see if we can kill people and set up for it. Just a lot of roaches. But by going to Hydras, it deals with a lot of the weakness. The Hydras do a lot more damage. They are a bit fragile to splash damage, but they shoot up, they shoot down. They generally kill stuff. Our opponent had pretty darn good macro this game. But yeah, I think we realized that, like, I think there's a really important thing there, which is a lot of people go, I can't shoot up, they have Void Rays, I lose the game. I have roaches, that sort of thing. And I think you've really got to recognize, it's like, what did I do? I just said, okay, well, my army's, like, weak in that regard. If the Void Rays come across before my Hydras are ready, I'm screwed. But what did I do? I didn't build spores. I built one spore in the main, extra, in case, like, 2 Void Rays came in just to help defend. But I didn't want to build spores because spores don't really help me defend. I'd rather go for the Hydras and have the mobile defense. I just had these roaches just waiting off the side of the map. So the moment the Void Rays came over, I could send them in to distract my opponent. And that bought me the time needed to get out the Hydras. Even though I didn't know it was Void Rays for a very long time. Because my opponent hid them in their main for quite a while, right? My opponent was being very secretive. So even if you have mass roach, right, and you can't shoot up, you can always still beat an air army, right? There is always a way you can be creative with your army usage. And look, we did it again as well, right? We did the exact same thing where I just queued them up there and I said, if those Void Rays show up and I'm not ready for it again, or even if I am, we'll aim move the roaches in. We literally repeated we did ring around the rosy with these roaches twice in a row. Void Rays rocked up and we attacked from the exact same angle. Now, they didn't end up killing the Nexus, but it killed some probes, killed some zealots, distracted my opponent. Arguably, if I ran into the natural and got on top of all the probes, that's always a juicier target. But we're trying to keep things relatively simple. When you add to control group, that's shift, right? Yeah, you need to control click the eggs to select them all, and then it's just shift 2. Shift, I say plus, obviously you're not pressing the plus key. Shift plus 2. Shift plus 3, it's shift plus whatever the army key is. So when I stole the control group, that was alt, guys. There was one time where I wanted to move my roaches from my main army group, number 2 to number 3, and I used alt to steal them. And what that does is it's the same as control in that it makes a new group on 3, but it also takes them off their existing group. So that's what I did there. And that way the Hydras could become my main army at home, which I just used like a normal army. And those roaches were kind of redefined and reorganized in my brain to those guys are a backstab. That's all they're there for. How do you add eggs to the control group? You guys can link up either the exclamation mark fundamentals or the first Bronze to GM, which will give you those. Yeah. If you build overlords in army, how do you get the army in the group? So you're meant to build your overlords and your drones separately. What you'll notice every time I produce Z-Sling is I produce army, I control group the eggs, I add them to the group, I then reselect my hatchery control group and then build overlords and drones. So I build overlords and drones in separate rounds to army units. And this is what most pros and high-level players do. There is a couple of weirdos who don't do it, but this allows your army to already be on your control groups and it fixes everything. Is it normal for Zerg to have oversaturated bases? That's a great question from Gamer Elliptical. So is it normal to have oversaturated bases? Yeah, the thing is, people think if you have 17 or 18 drones on a base, it's bad. It's not. Unless you've perfectly doubled up those workers to make sure they're optimized, so it's 2 on each mineral patch, you're probably actually getting a shitload of benefit from the next drone. So anywhere up to 20 drones on a base is totally fine. A lot of people get scared off because the big red number says 20 out of 16, super bad. Remember that as a Zerg, you're spending drones to build buildings. So too many players, they're too afraid to ever go above 16 workers, and then they pull drones on gas. Bam, they're on 13 out of 16, and then they build 2 Evo chambers. They're on 11 out of 16, which is a fucking disaster. 11 out of 16 workers. The number of players who are always undersaturated in their main base because they're building buildings, it's terrible. So a lot of players I actually advise, you'll see me stopping at 16 a lot of the time, but sometimes I go 17, sometimes 18. I actually tell people 18's probably really good for most people out there. Is kind of as a number in your main base. If you can go 16, that's great. But I would say on 17 or 18 rather than 14 or 15. Always have 1 or 2 more rather than 1 or 2 less. As close to 16 as possible is great, but anywhere up to that's great. If you go above 20 workers, there is almost no advantage. Like the 21, 22, 23, 24, those guys give you next to no mining. Next to no mining. They're very, very, it's like 10, 15% per worker. Whereas the 17th to 20th, they can give you a lot if you don't optimize how your drones are paired up on mineral patches. But, this is so funny how deep we can go on this. We'll queue another game so we don't spend too long. If you don't, but because then there might be a patch. If you don't actually pay attention to that, which we haven't talked about yet, because it's not too important. But if you only have 1 worker on 1 patch and then 3 on the next 2 patches, like those 3 worker patches, the workers are all waiting for the other ones to mine. Meanwhile, the 1 worker patch is unoccupied half the time. So you're actually, it's like getting that extra drone that's going to bounce around and fill that mineral patch is kind of actually going to be a very efficient drone, depending on a little bit of chance there. So guys, it's a Protoss player called Cheeseburger. We're going to make a camera location, center it, natural, third, fourth base, and fifth base. You can choose where you want those bases to be. Now our overlord, second overlord goes out front the natural after scouting to make sure we're not getting cannon rushed. Now you'll notice sometimes I have this habit of clicking eggs. You guys don't need to do this, but we're just talking about it, doubling up patches. So let's talk about minerals really quickly, because why the heck not? This is good fundamental knowledge, whether or not you pay attention to it. So you have 4 mineral patches that are heavy patches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice they all start with 1900 minerals, I think it is, something like that. The other patches only start with 900 minerals, right? So they will run out a lot faster. They also are usually a little further away. Notice that's further away than that. So there's 2 reasons why you want to double up on the closer patches. The first reason is, well, they're closer. Less time running back and forth. That makes perfect sense, right? So what's the other reason why you do it? Is those patches have more minerals on them. And you want to mine those out more, because if you end up mining these further patches too quickly, well, they disappear and you've just got less places to mine from, which means you need to go further and further afield into more dangerous bases in order to get places for your workers to mine. So that's kind of a really interesting thing to think about. You'll notice here, I've made it so there's 2 workers on every patch, so they're all perfectly spread out. If you don't pay attention and make sure they do that, they might end up, like I said, 3 patches there, 3 there, only 1 on that patch, only 1 on that patch. And you end up with not only the patches mining out really fast, but also it just makes you're just mining less. You're mining less efficiently. So it's just one of those little things which it's never too early to build that as a habit. If you don't build it, is it going to kill you? No, it's pretty fine. But it's good for you to know. And I figure, hey, why not? We might as well talk you guys through the knowledge of kind of how the minerals works. Now, we saw a probe coming across the map. I don't know where it is. So I'm going to send 1 Zergling to kind of just queue, and I've just queued A moves all along the edges of the map, while this guy goes to sit outside the base. Now build another queen, keep building drones. We're rallied down here, and notice, check it out. Why am I rallying to 2 separate mineral patches? Just to spread the drones out. Just means they should kind of end up, hopefully, mining apart from each other a little bit, you know? So we're going to put some overlords out the front, guys. And what do we see here, guys? Well, not too much. So let's go back to the pillar, just 2 gates again. Remember, wait for the next queen. But let's just build drones in the meantime. Tap, 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 tap. Oi! Oi, mate! Kill that! So we're going to build 4 more Zerglings to go with this guy, and they're going to go over here and try to clean that up. Inject, inject, build drones. Oi, where's the probe that built it? Oi! Cheeky bugger. Build an extra overlord. Guess what, guys? 36 supply, so Roach Roaring needs to go down. Tapping the hatcheries, building drones. Tapping the hatcheries, building drones. And Ling Speed will be done in a little bit. Let's go across the map with our Zerglings to kind of see what's up over there, okay? Inject, inject. Build drones, save the last few lava for overlords, which at this point, we click to the back. Now, we're getting close to 44 supplies. Let's get that 3rd hatchery, which, remember, we don't really use this early, but it's just nice to have as extra production, and it gives us the option to build lots of workers on it, and this is really going to help set us up. Select hatcheries, build drones. We're still tapping that. Tapping that. Add to control group, center camera location, reset rally point. Now we can see there's a nexus on the way. Remember, 345, we're trying to learn to overlord sacrifice, because there's stalkers there. Oh, oi! Okay, we'll just run in then. The Zerglings will go in. I was going to send the overlord into sacrifice, but since he doesn't want me to, we're going to just run the Zerglings in and see what he's doing. And he's going lots of stalkers. So if we just shift-click some probes, that should be nice. Okay, inject, inject, build drones, build overlords. And we're going to take gases, lair. Now he's got a lot of gateways, and he was making a lot of stalkers. So in general, I'm scared. So we're going to build 2 Zerglings and click them there. No control group. These are spotters. 2 Zerglings, go to the 3rd. So remember, what is this? I did a macro cycle. What did I do? I looked at my map and I said, I don't have enough vision. If that overlord dies, I can't see shit. So what did I focus on? I focused on replacing that map vision. Now notice this base really undersaturated, so we've got to fix that up, guys. Let's put guys on gas. Inject, inject. Now, select the hatchery manually, build drones, click on the minerals, and we can rally them there. We say, hey, I've got 2 bases. That means we're swapping. Remember, up to this point, it's been tap build drones, tap build drones. Why are we building drones? Because that's just what we build at the start of the game. But we've just swapped modes from unit production, from drone production to unit production. All I'm building now is roaches. Tap hatcheries, build roaches. Tap hatcheries, inject, build roaches, build roaches. Now we also see, holy fuck, he snuck a thingo in there. Oh my god. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna build some spines, build overlords, make roach speed, make roaches. Inject. I don't have enough energy. That's okay. What do we do when we're not ready to fight, guys? Remember we talked about this last week? Pull into your mineral line. We're also going to do something I wanted to talk about, which we didn't. Select all the, control click the drones, and they're on army 2. So if I need to, I am going to bring those guys into the fight as tanks. They're not the best tanks, but they can do okay. Ah, he's killing my spine crawlers. Okay, let's go. Roaches A move. Number 2 drones A move. He's running away. Let's go back. Run. Inject. We don't have the energy. Build more roaches. Notice we're looking at my supply cap. Even now in battle, looking at my supply cap saying, I don't need overlords. Just roaches, nothing else. And roach speed's on the way, so that'll allow us to chase these stalkers down. Oh no, I pulled my guys off gas. So that's fine. Let's just put back on gas. That doesn't look like a very big army. That looks like a big army. So if you're ever unsure about a fight, that's what you do, guys. You look at your blob, and then you look at their blob, and if your blob's bigger, you smash your blob into them. Inject, build roaches. Add to control group. Now, oh, we killed my base. That's okay. I've got a big army, so we're going to chase him. Okay? So I've A moved to behind him, and then I've queued up an attack move across the map. And because roach speed just kicked in, we should be good. So let's retake my 3rd. And let's also build some more drones, shall we? So we're going to build drones to replace all these drones we lost on my natural. And let's try and kill my opponent now, shall we? So we've still got some ling spotters here. We'll put one in the corner to make sure he doesn't have a corner base. And remember, move up. Oh, there's invisible men there, guys. So you might not notice this straight away, but this is why we need to make an overseer. There's a few blurs there. If you guys don't see them very well, change your graphic settings. My graphic settings are actually pretty arse for this. And normally you would just run away here, right? Wait for the overseer and then go in. I looked at it and said, I've got so many guys, it doesn't really matter. If you do struggle with those graphic settings, you can't see them. Google hybrid graphic settings. Give it a search. There's a thread on Team Liquid that talks about kind of what you want to be doing there in terms of that and how that's really important. Thank you, ladder. All right, we made it to gold 2. So, my opponent snuck out another probe and got a proxy pylon up. But at least we saw the stalkers warping in by having our overlord vision outside our base. If I didn't see that, probably wouldn't have died still because my production was good, but I might have. So we saw there how just these little pieces give you a lot of stuff. They give you a lot of little details and pieces to kind of extra insurance against dying. Did I need to build the spines? Not really. The evos feel a lot later than in my current roach build that I found online. This feels safer as you get more roaches out earlier. Would you recommend sticking with my current build order or switching to yours? I'm in silver 1, says Blokey King. Yeah, no, I think this is probably a better starting point. If you're still in Silver League, even though you are getting close to gold, yeah, I think this is probably a little bit better. Upgrades are very expensive and they don't kick in for a while, so they're good if you're playing a longer game. But definitely, the point is though that I'm being aggressive with my roaches, which is what makes this viable, guys. So that's the whole point. We're playing another Zerg versus Protoss. Cool. Lots of Zerg versus Protoss. Bugs. So keep in mind, a big thanks everyone for the subs, guys. I'm sorry I don't do very good shout-outs today. Big thanks Titty Blaster and Get Who for the subs. I'm so focused on teaching. And Arai for the gifted sub before that. Thank you, guys.
My man!
So, let's get that spawning pool. So, yeah. Because I'm attacking with the roaches, it's fine for me to overcommit to roaches, as long as I utilize them at a good timing. So what you've got to engage in there critically because it's your decision. Do you stick with your build, get upgrades or mine? Well, if you're doing the upgrade build, you're playing for a longer game. You're playing for a bigger economy later in the game, and that's your goal, and that's fine. as maybe you build a roach warren, and then if you see the opponent come at you, you build roaches earlier, and you build that as a reaction. That makes sense. But if you're going to swap to the way I'm playing, well, you want to make sure that you attack with those roaches at the time that it makes sense to attack with them, which is, hey, I've built a bunch of roaches for a couple of rounds non-stop, roach speed's kicked in, let's fucking go. Now, is it an all-in? No. And what you guys really need to understand is there's no such thing as an all-in in the lower leagues. Why is that? Because we all suck. No. It's just, you've still got 2 bases of economy. We can still do our Hydras behind it. And the big thing is when you go for an attack, the first times you do it, it's kind of like, I just run in and it either works or it doesn't work. But as you develop experience, you're going to start realizing, oh, this is a really bad situation for my attack. Let's pull back. Let's not commit to it. And you'll have those situations where you preserve your army and you go to the next step, right? And that's where you really become more of a flexible player. Is you start to think of attacks not as, I just run it in and lose all my shit, but you start to think of it as, oh, sometimes they're ready for it, and I actually back off, and I wait for the right situation, and suddenly I'm a flexible, adjustable, adaptable StarCraft player. And that's a really cool feeling. That's a very cool feeling when you start to make those adjustments. So once again, guys, we're seeing 2 gates at the front here, and no Nexus, but Nexus comes down a little bit later. That's all good. Tapping, building drones, tapping, building drones. Oh, I forgot to build Zerglings this game, guys. Let's send those across the map, shall we? Outside the base. Inject, build drones, and save lava for an overlord. So, overlord there. So notice we got 1 overlord out front there, 1 over here, and next overlord, we'll build another one up there. And that's going to give us our full ring of vision. We're basically at 36 supply, so let's just take one of those drones, build a roach warren, tap, build drones, and we're going to have 1 Zergling out front. The other Zergling is going to go sit at the 3rd base. And then I'm also going to build 2 more Zerglings, but I'm going to sit those in the middle of the map, just as like backup scouts. Macro cycle, inject, build drones, build overlords. Remember, we've already got our ring of vision, so our overlords, we can just click to the back. And notice I'm building those in those separate rounds that we talked about. Tap, build drones. Let's take our 3rd base. And remember, 345, we're meant to sacrifice an overlord. So we're starting to see a problem, which is a lot of the time people have anti-air at the front. So I think what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to change it up. So in future, this overlord queues over here, so I can send it in at this time to scout in the main base. So that's going to be something we're going to have to add after this game. Inject, build drones, build overlords, and you notice you can click on the minimap as well. I don't have to go here and click on the screen. I'm going to click on the minimap and build that habit. Let's go lair and all 4 gases, because we always do that all at once. Tap a few more overlords and click in there, since we're pretty close to supply capped. And what do we do in between production cycles, guys? We run Zerglings around. We go, oh, what's going on? Now I can already see everything, so it's not very important to do that, but you know, why not? Build the habit. Inject, build 3 drones. You guys will notice I'm like a human metronome, right? Build more drones. I always seem to look back here right on 30 seconds. That's practice. If you guys have a bunch of energy, you only inject every 45 seconds with your macro cycles, it doesn't matter. It's really fine. It really is. Let's grab some of these guys, go to the 3rd base, and rally there. But guess what? We've got 2 bases. What do we do, guys? Nothing but roaches from here. Nothing but roaches. Now, because we missed our overlord scout timing, it's okay. Why? Because if we see him run out, we would have built units earlier. That's what we're doing. We're only building defensive units and extra things when we see them come. But what is our next piece of scouting? Our lair just kicked in. Overseer goes there, and then out the back of the base, okay? Roach speed. Tapping our hotkeys, building overlords, building roaches. So I've talked about it before, but I want to talk about it a bit more, guys. As I'm producing, and as I'm in between macro cycles, what am I doing? Check the saturation. If we want, we can be pedantic and move those drones there. Check the rally points. Check my army. Okay, this is all good. And then look at your scouts. That's a lot of gateways. That is a big sign of aggression, guys. None of this is tech except the robo. That's a lot of units. If I wasn't already building army, I would definitely do it now. We go home, build roaches. I didn't save any lava for overlords, which is a bit of a problem because I'm very close to that supply gap. And remember, if we're at the end of a macro cycle, if we still had 1,000 minerals or more, what do? We go, which I don't have it, but just to show you, we build a macro hatch. And that's just a habit. So if you guys are ever floating 2,000 minerals, you can literally go build hatch. Just build 3 macro hatcheries, add them to your control group. It's just going to give you a bit of extra production. Now, time for another macro cycle. Build roaches. Add to control group. Did we get roach speed? It's almost finished. So we kind of want to go fight now. But we're in a funny position where strategy starts to kick in, guys. And that position is I want to go fight my opponent. But I've just scouted my opponent wants to go fight me. My head hurts. Do we attack or defend? It's stressful. What do we do? Well, we're gonna move out and go, oh, he's coming to me? No worries, no worries. That's fine. Let's pull this overlord back. Even poop some creep out of it. Why not? We're just gonna wait. If we want to be super pro, we could set up a surround, but let's just wait for one more round of units. So let's just delay our attack a little bit. Oh, look at that. That Zergling I left at the third killed him. Macro cycle, inject, inject. Build more roaches. And we'll just wait for him to come a bit closer, and we can just basically say, oh, cool, I'll have even more units. We're using what we call defender's advantage, which is your rally point is closer. Oh, he's going up there. Okay, let's go get him. Let's go get him. So you're going to be rallying right into the fight, and if you're doing nothing but building units, your army's probably getting stronger pretty damn fast. Now, remember, what do we do with our micro, guys? We're just going to move right on top. Because he's running away, we're going to wait till we're right on top of him. And remember, don't do this clicking right in front of your unit's ship. Click way behind their army, guys. So you don't have to be stopping. Too many people. And notice the way I'm scrolling the screen. Remember, guys, if you didn't watch the first session, go back, up your scroll speed. Inject, inject, build roaches, build some overlords. And what are we going to do, guys? Move in. So we're just going to start by A moving. They're kind of disorganized. Let's get them in a nice big blob. And now, let's go. So this is kind of awkward, but because we've got so much more firepower, we're actually going to open the wall, and then we're going to move, A move, move, A move, move, A move. And that is the #1 micro that we do as a Zerg. Terran players like, yeah, you don't even need to spread your units out. Your race is so broken. Your race is so broken. So what are two things that we can now add in, guys? I've talked a lot about kind of where our eyeballs are, and that's a real subtle skill you develop over time, right? Checking your supply and your money, adding macro hatches when needed, building extra overlords when needed, or skipping overlords for a cycle when you've already built a few too many overlords, right? People often ask, how many overlords do you build? And some people say, oh, when you're on one base, you build one overlord every cycle. 2 bases, 2 overlords, 3 bases, 3 overlords. And I go, that's okay, but for me, I prefer to be a little more flexible and just say, you just want an increasing supply gap. So early on, 8 or 10 supply is a good supply gap, but as your supply gets bigger, you want that to get bigger. So when you get to like 60 supply, you want it to be out of like 90. When you're at like 110 supply, you want it to be out of like 150, 160. So give yourself a bigger supply gap as you go on. As you get higher level, you can play a little closer to your supply gap. But you'll notice I give myself like a crazy supply gap here. Some people are like, that's insane, that's too much, that's inefficient. It is always better to have a big supply gap than to get supply blocked. Supply blocking is, it grinds your whole production to a halt and fucks up everything. Whereas building overlords ahead of time, you're like, oh, it's a little bit of opportunity cost. But if it's not even spent in drones, it doesn't matter. It's not a big... So you just build extra overlords. That's basically it, guys. That's what you do. And you just kind of expand that as you go on. So at this point of the game, I actually hugged my supply gap a little close. I probably should have been 120 out of 180 at this point. Because I'm building roaches. And guys, if you get inject, especially if I had a third queen injecting, that's like, you're building like 15 roaches, 30 supply. Every 30 seconds you're building of roaches. It's actually a crazy amount of supply. You don't chew up supply as quickly with Zerglings, Mutas, Infestors, more expensive units. Roaches, though, are incredibly supply-hungry units, so there's kind of a different mode there. So I think what's next, guys? Well, we didn't talk about the third queen yet. We haven't done the third queen to get used to spreading creep to connect our bases and just spreading creep tumors in between. So that's something we can start getting used to. What else didn't we do yet? Well, we haven't really gone to the Hydralisk stage. We keep just killing people with roaches. I mean, we did it one game, right, against the Void Rays, but that's almost like a standard thing. So we might even, as our roaches go across, we might on this next game, what we're going to do, rather than rallying roaches non-stop, guys, at the point when we move across the map to fun, we're actually going to stop building roaches, and we're going to plan it more as a less committed attack, and we're going to already be transitioning before our attack goes across the map. So that means as we move out, we start droning, so we swap gears into drones. We're going to build double Evo and a Hydra Den, and we're basically going to be saying whether this roach attack kills them or it doesn't do good or whatever. We're not reinforcing it. It's one blob of roaches, and we're going back into economy and the next step behind it. And this is a really important skill you need to develop as a Zerg, because a lot of your strategies are based off this. A lot of very powerful strategies are you do a 5 roach pressure versus Terran, and then you're droning up and going mutas behind it. Or you are muta harassing a Terran, and then you're droning up and then massing Roach Ravager for an all-in behind it. And these are some of your best strategies. These are some of your easiest strategies to execute as well. So that's something we're definitely going to work on, as well as the Overlord. We want to move that second Overlord. After it scouts our natural, we're going to queue it straight across the map, because we want to have that extra piece of scouting. Remember what I said? 345, we want to send an Overlord in. And I haven't started doing that yet. So let's start doing that one now and see how we go. I had a good question. It's about how you stop before you use all your lava and switch between drones Overlord. It's a little more complicated than gold, says Colosopher. Well, the thing is, lava pops out pretty fast. So basically, when you hold your key down, you can just get a feel for it. That's it. It's just muscle memory. You can say, oh, well, I'm not good enough to do that. But really, it's just repetitions, isn't it, Colosopher? So if you hold the key down and you go, I've got 10 lava, you get a feel for holding it down to spend about 5 or 6. And it's not perfect, it's not exact. But if you overshoot and you're like, shit, I didn't build Overlords, that's fine, because on your next tapping cycle... Oh, it's Cheeseburger again. On your next tapping cycle, you're going to be able to just be building Overlords. And you'll notice I'm doing that a lot, right? Where I'm like, ooh, I need to be building more Overlords. So I'm kind of tapping to my hatchery and building Overlords with the next focus. So I'm saying, ooh, we're swapping, build a few Overlords as the next priority, because the lava will pop out very quickly. So it's very important to hold the key down and be spending all your lava. Definitely, it's a good question though, that Colosopher pointed out, because it's one of those things where some people they always spend all the lava, and I go, okay, you've just got to get a softer touch. You got to get a softer touch on your keyboard. Get used to pulling that finger off the key at the right. It'll take a bit of practice. But if you hop into a custom game and you like focus just on that for 10 minutes and really focus on getting a feel for it, I'm guaranteed anybody's capable of doing that. I would definitely, I think it's harder if you go into the registry and you do all that fancy shit that pro gamers do, where they go and mess with the settings in Windows registry and they make the keyboard repeat rate just like lightning fast. And that's why you see Raynor and stuff, Lambo and shit at like 1000 APM. It's because they've made the repeat rate so fast that they can hold down their key for a fraction of a second and build, 50 Zerglings or whatever. Why can't we building the Overlords first? Oh, you mean in the macro cycle? You absolutely can. Yeah, we talked about it in the last session. I was saying, people were asking that, and they were like, why do you build units then Overlords? Like, isn't it easier to build the Overlords first? And I said, a lot of people prefer to do that. I don't, because I just like to build the units first. That's just my preference. Personal preference. It really doesn't matter. For me, it's like, well, that should be the habit. Like, if you've got supply free, right? If you've got a big supply cap, but your default is to go to Overlords, and you're like, oh, I was at 50 free supply, now I'm at 80 free supply before you even notice. So for me, because I automatically go to building units, it's kind of nice, because that kind of gives me the time. Oh, Overlord for the sacrifice. Q over there. Yeah. It gives me the time to react as needed. So one Zergling on the third, one outside the base. So for me, the idea is I like to build the units with priority, then the Overlords. It just kind of makes sense for me. But if you prefer to go inject, build Overlords, then build units, that's okay. Tapping the hatcheries and building drones. The Zerglings. We're going to see a quicker Nexus this game from my opponent. So tapping the hatcheries, building drones. Remember, this guy does not inject straight away. We want to wait for that queen to pop in the main. And we started queuing that queen even before that queen popped out. Tap the hatcheries, build drones. Tap the hatcheries, build drones. Tap the hatcheries, build drones. Run around, and inject, and build Overlords, because we already spent the lava. So we can go Overlord on the edge, select the hatchery, build an Overlord on the edge, and we are done Overlords for a while. So back to drones, and guess what? We're at 36 supply. Build a Roach Warren. Now, this Overlord I forgot to send across. So you can see it's already about 30 seconds from the base. So I'm actually just going to queue that to go through, and that's automatically going to be a 345 scout, which is really cool. inject, inject. Lots of drones. Lots of supply free, so we're just going to build one overlord. Click that to the back. Now, remember, we wanted to get a bit more vision, so let's build 2 more Zerglings, and they're going to replace these Zerglings on our control group. Because we don't... They're spotters. That's their whole job, is to die, and these guys are going to be backup spotters. A little further back, but still on the central path through the map. Alright, looks like our next macro cycle's almost ready. Inject, inject. Drones! And remember, even if you're saturated, you need a lot more drones, because you still got to build your gases, build overlords. Because each gas, choose a drone up, and then the drones that go to mine from it. Our overlord scout is dying. We see a robo, a bunch of stalkers. So this is all just standard gateway ground stuff. Go home and continue our next part of the build. Now notice this base is way undersaturated, so we're actually going to fix up our saturation. This is what we do in between macro cycles, remember? Look at this. Our natural has too many workers on it. So we take 3 of those, put them on the gas, build a few more drones, click them on the minerals, and inject, inject. I did my inject out of order. Bad, bad, bad pro gamer habit. Don't do that unless you've got 300 APM like me. That is a fucking naughty. If you catch yourself doing that, just selecting a queen and injecting it because it's on your screen, you are handicapping yourself as a player. This is something you've got to be really, really tight on, guys. Let's take that 3rd hatch. I forgot to do that as we were talking about the overlord sacrifice. So the important thing is, if you do that out of order, you're handicapping yourself unless you're an incredibly fast player who's incredibly experienced. You don't want to do that until you're in Masters. I coach a lot of Diamond players who do this, and they are forever stuck in the lower end of Diamond, sometimes the middle end of Diamond, because they never fix that habit, and it's so deeply ingrained. So inject, inject, then build units, and you can tap the hatcheries and produce between, but you are never allowed to go, ooh, I've got 25 energy, let's do an inject, because that disrupts that deep base macro cycle, which allows you to be a good StarCraft player. Ooh, Immortals. Let's make an Overseer and see if there's anything else. Inject, inject, build roaches, build some overlords. Obviously, let's rally to our 3rd base. So, in this case, we've seen a lot of ground army. Let's drop a changeling as well. Tell him. So what you do with your changeling is you just right-click it on their units. And this looks like a big ground army. So similar to the last game, guys. A few more overlords. Let's go. We're going to be in this sort of game where our opponent actually is making a good army for killing us, and that it's a big ground army, so we can't just be like, yeah, let's go kill him. If he was building forges, twilight councils, all the tech structures, 3rd base, 4th base, anything like that, those are all signs of greed. What do we see? We see an expansion, a single sign of what is barely even something that classifies as greed, right? And then we just see lots of production and lots of army. So what this tells us is our opponent is basically in a similar gear to us. Make 2 bases and then make a big army. And this is similar to that previous game. We're in a similar scenario where normally I might already have urgency to go attack because roach speed's done and I've built a big squad of roaches. In this game, I'm a little more cautious. So we're going to wait for one more full round of roaches to come out, and only then are we going to attack, okay? So, by the way, we forgot to spread creep this game. So let's start building this habit. We're going to take this injecting queen. We're going to put her on number 4. And that is now a creep queen. So she's going to go over there and spread creep here and here in the future. And we're going to start building that habit earlier and earlier. Okay? So these roaches are coming out, guys. And remember, this time it's a one and done attack. We are not reinforcing. Okay, so let's move across to our rally point, which is, I guess, with those Zerglings will be good. Inject. Inject. Build drones. Lots of drones. We can even transfer a few. And what else are we doing, guys? Ooh, I remember. Double Evo and a Hydras, right? We can hotkey those. We can rally there. Let's build a 3rd queen. Spread some creep. Oh, shit! Okay, so we weren't actually attacking yet till we were ready, but it looks like he's coming to fight us. So let's move on top and A move. Move on top and A move. Move on top. A move. Move on top. All my roaches seem to be attacking. Only two at the back are running around. Let's move forward then. And whenever you see them running around at the back, that means you've got to move in deeper. Now, if you want to focus fire, that's super, super duper pro and super awesome. Let's go home and inject. Inject. Take the gases. Hydra upgrades. So we queue all these upgrades at once. Let's look back at the army. Oh shit, we lost this fight. Well, we traded, right? We killed most of his army, but let's get into Hydra production and roach production right now, guys. Because he might just come kill me. So we've got this queen. we're going to start spreading creep in between macro cycles. Now notice the way we want to do it is we want to just kind of scroll across our map and do that. So we're going to transfer some drones, put some guys on gas, inject, build Hydras and Roaches, and try to group up another army. And also, we're blind right now. Look at our minimap. I did a macro cycle. What do? I look at the minimap. If I see a blind minimap, I feel like shit. Build 2 Zerglings, click there. Reselect the hatcheries, build 2 Zerglings, click there. Make an Overseer. Queue that to go through the main and all the way there. And I'm also, look at the edges of the map. They're a little bit blind. So I'm going to build an Overlord, click it there. Build an Overlord, click it there. So we're going to see prisms, anything like that coming across the map with that sort of stuff. And we've got a lot of Hydras now, so let's build a lot more Roaches, because they do really well if they have the tanky and very cheap Roaches in front of them. So notice we've got a big supply gap after losing our Roach army. We don't need to build Overlords anymore, just Roaches and Hydras. Now, you might be like, why didn't you saturate this base? Well, if you hover over your workers, you can see your total worker count. Now, remember, if you look at the build notes or the Bronze to GM notes, I've said with this next step, we're meant to get 55 to 60 drones. In this game, I've stopped at 50. And the reason is, I lost my whole army and am blind on the map. He could be attacking me at any moment. I'm afraid. And I'm saying, well, you know a good way to make sure I don't die? Do nothing but build army, stop a little bit lower on workers, and hopefully we survive. And that's a fucking scary army, guys. So what we're going to do is super pro concave micro. Oh my god. So we spread our units out and then we attack move. Now we're going to grab everything and pull it back. Boxing it was bad. You don't need to box it. Boxing's usually good in fights, but in that scenario, notice we're just spreading. And then inject, inject, inject. Build more Hydras, build more Roaches. So we're just building more Roaches and more Hydras. So because he's got force fields, he wants me to fight in a nice narrow choke. But we've set up this concave. Now notice, he tries to lure me in. We box, we spread, and we say, come back into my concave. And on the most basic level, it's just box half your army, put half there, half there. And that's already all you need to do. But if we want to be super pro right now, if they're being really annoying and they won't let us fight them, we can get super advanced right now. You guys want to get super advanced? Let's defend this next wave and then we can do it. Once again, he's trying to lure me into the choke point. Box half the army, move out. Pull back, box half the army, move out. Really good micro from my opponent, but he's eventually getting the shits and fighting in my choke point. So now we go back to just kind of the moving in micro a little bit. A lot of my units are stuck behind, but they're kind of spilling around. And let's pull back. So that super advanced micro we were going to do. Oh, he's coming. He's coming for me. Keep building Hydras. Keep building units. Okay, let's move on him now. Because he's out of force fields, we can go back to basic bitch micro here. Just try to make sure we get in range. Move forward, A move. Move forward, A move. Now, attack to a staging point. Don't attack to his base, a staging point. Inject. Inject. We lost that queen. Inject. What are we doing? More Roaches, more Hydras, and also, let's take a 4th base. Oh, I don't have the money for it. But normally, if we can take a base, if we could start some more upgrades, anything like that while we're moving across to the staging point, take some drones, move them over, that would be great. If we had a few more drones, we'd probably have money right now. As it is, let's try and go in and finish the game. You know what we're missing, guys? An Overseer. So we might die to DTs, or an Observer could be spying on us this whole time, and we wouldn't even know about it. Move in. Move in. Oh, this is actually really great force field micro. I'm really impressed with my opponent's play, by the way, guys. The way they're using a relatively simple A-move long-range army in Stalkers and Mortals. They've got double upgrades, 2 1s. They're actually better upgrades, and they're using force fields. This player is fucking awesome. I'm really impressed. Now, we don't want to attack into that bad position, right? Once again, bad choke point. So we're going to go into the vulnerable mineral line, because that's a really juicy target. So whenever you want to do maximum damage, get in the mineral line, then A-move. And you're going to kill the probes. Gold is a lot better than I remember. I'm sorry, Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger played freaking great. I don't think Cheeseburger's meant to be in Gold League, to be honest. That player played really well, dude. They're going to Diamond. They're going to Diamond. They had a Warp Prism, warping in units. They made double upgrades. They took a 3rd. Like, they withstood my big Roach attack. Like, that was really well played. People say I should message them. Made it to Gold 1. Well, they can see just looking at the profile that we've won most of our games, and we are leveling right on up. So we are now at MMR 2922, provisional MMR 2716, and we have made it to gold 1. Second overlord, queue to the front of the base. We got to remember that. What else do we need to remember? Let's get that third queen. So how do we remember to get a third queen, guys, if it's not in the build? After I build my third hatchery, I'm going to try and... Maybe not then. I think when I start roach production, I will try to remember to get a third queen then. And that's not the earliest, but it's going to be nice just to kind of get a little bit of creep going. And then we can speed that up later on, depending on how we want to. Should be good. Super advanced equals macro more while on enemy doorstep. Yeah, basically, look, if you go to the staging point with your army and you do a lot of macro while moving across the map, that is honestly, for most people right through Platinum League, a huge game changer. Too many people stare at their army as they're moving across the map. If you can just move to a staging zone, maybe 3/4 of the way across the map, 2/3, do extra macro, get all that done, then go and attack, it's going to be great. Is creep spread part of the macro cycle, given energy timing, says Iderald? No, so creep spread is something you just do in between with extra queens. So you might have in your build order an early creep tumor or two that disrupts a macro cycle as you get more advanced build orders, perhaps. But generally speaking, you'll have separate creep/defense queens that are on their own keys, and they are just kind of mixed in. So one thing you guys are going to notice is we've already got a great question. Litany of Fear says, wait, when do these Hydras get added into the build? When does this happen? Well, I mean, you can look at the notes, and I've just written setting up for the next step, behind your roach attack rather than rallying roaches. This is right near the bottom of today's notes. Drone behind roach attack rather than rallying roaches. Go for a double evo and a Hydra den. Get to 55 or 60 drones. Make 1/1 and do a roach Hydra timing. That should hit maybe 3 or 4 minutes after the first roach attack. They're like, but when supply? No, we don't have supply counts. It's just when you're going for your roach attack, when you're moving across that map, just like I did in that last game. That's when we're gonna go to Hydras. Now, StarCraft is a flexible game, and we can play it in many different ways, okay? So if you want to adjust things a certain way here or there, as long as there is a logical reason behind what you're doing, you will learn whether it ends up being the right or the wrong decision. And here's the sneaky secret. There's no such thing as wrong or right. It all depends on what your opponent does, unless it's just blatantly inefficient, right? As long as you have a reason for making any adjustment to a build, and then when it doesn't work out, go, oh, okay, this is not working because of this, you're kind of setting yourself up to learn. So I guess my biggest advice, that's like one of these overarching things that you guys need to focus on if you want to get better at StarCraft, is make decisions and don't be afraid to make your own adjustments. And, oh no, I like to build 10 Zerglings early because that allows me... Ooh, remember we attacked the probe. Second Overlord, we queue to the natural and then across, ready to sacrifice, remember. So you'll notice I definitely give the probe a little bit more respect than an SCV or a drone. And that's for very good reason. It's because cannons exist. If you just have a drone attacking the probe, that's usually fine. Now, one thing we could do is we could have put that drone on a different hotkey. So if we're like, oh, look, the drone's running away on the minimap, rather than having to look at it, we just select that drone, which is actually fighting right now. And then we bring it back and put it on gas. We put 2 more guys on gas, build a queen, and that means the main is saturated. Why? Because 2 + 1 = 3 on gas. We've got 16 on minerals, so we rally there. We now build our Overlord. Oh, we haven't started our Zergling yet, so we do need to get that Zergling going, guys. So we're just waiting for the next lava. We're tapping it, build Zergling. And we did see that probe disappear. So I'm a little bit like, I wonder. But let's not freak ourselves out. Let's queue up our second queen, keep tapping our hatcheries, building drones. And for now, I'm just going to put this Overlord down here where it can see if a Nexus goes down. Just so we know immediately. And, oh, hello. Let's kill him. Die, probe! Don't stare at it. As much as I like to shout at things because it's fun and go, yeah, you do the thing. Oh, cool, they killed him. Remember, what do we do, guys? Outside the base. Now, on this map, we want to put them on both sides because there's 2 exits to the base. So we'll put them there. Drones. And Nexus does go down, so that's really good to know. So we're going to go back to the pillar over here. We're safe. Build drones. First macro cycle. Inject. And guess what? Our supply is a bit wonky, isn't it? So Overlord out front. Next Overlord out here. Next overlord out here. So we've got 2 more overlords on the way. Fantastic. Keep building drones. Select hatchery, build drone. What am I doing, guys? Where are my eyeballs? Map control. Select hatcheries, build drones. Where are my eyeballs? When I'm in between macro cycles, I'm both just pressing hatcheries, drones, hatcheries, drones, hatcheries, drones, and I'm looking around the map. And then it's time for another macro cycle. Inject, inject, build drones, build an overlord. There. Let's go take that 3rd base, shall we? So we'll take the 3rd over here. I actually didn't set up my camera locations this game. And you know what? 3rd base. Oh shit, we forgot our Roach Warren. We forgot the Roach Warren, guys. Oh no! Shh. Alright, we got a 3rd base and a 3rd queen on the way this time around. Before the Roach Warren. Let's hope we don't get attacked. It's 3:45, so let's queue our overlord through the base. Macro cycle time. Inject, inject. Build drones. Lots and lots of drones. And overlords, but we don't have money, so that's fine. Just 1 overlord. Now we've already created that camera location. We're going to set the rally point for all 3 hatcheries. We're going to go gas, lair, gas, gas. And remember, space does get a bit undersaturated. Oh. So there's a warp prism and some gateways. Oh, this looks kind of scary. 3 gateways. There's a warp prism, some stalkers. Okay, so I'm going to build some roaches just for safety right now. So we're going to just build as many roaches as I can, which is 8 roaches, and then get back to a macro cycle. Inject, inject, build drones, build overlords. Okay, and then what do we do between macro cycles? Put on gas, we put on gas, put on gas. We're missing drones in the main, so let's set the rally point there so that automatically refills. And now we see, hey, check it out, we're at 45. That's 2 bases. Build lots of overlords because we're very supply capped right now. And look at our map vision. We just lost another overlord. Okay, let's build even more overlords then. He's killing all of our overlords, but we've got ling spotters, so we'll see when he comes. Let's build 2 more. Another ling spotter there. 2 more lings. Inject, inject. Build roaches. And oh, we haven't used our creep queen yet. So you want to use shift a lot. Notice I've got energy. Let's build 2 creep tumors, and then you can go over to the 3rd where you can spread creep from there. Keep tapping roaches, remember? So it's still tapping, but we've swapped modes from drones to roaches. Why does Zerg take a different 3rd base? Oh, they're both totally fine. This 3rd base or this 3rd base are completely fine. You take whichever one you feel like. They're both valid. A lot of maps have 2 valid 3rd base locations, and it's purely preference where you like to build. So I wouldn't stress over it, guys. I would just make sure you do whatever you're comfortable with and be consistent with it so you get good at defending that base. We're going to make an overseer now, which I'm going to put on my scouting hotkey, which is my secondary army key later on, number 3. We're going to queue that for a scout. This Zerg is going to say, hey, do you have a 3rd base? Do you have a 3rd base? Nope. Build a few more overlords, and let's go macro cycle, inject, inject, build roaches. Okay. Now notice my map vision's a little light, guys. I didn't put overlords on the edges this time, so I'm going to grab 2. And I'm going to just send them out to the edges. Oh, he's coming to me. So once again, guys, my big roach attack, the power of aggression, well, part of it is when your opponents attack into you, you're already ready for it because you were about to go out and attack them. So this overlord ring always, how often, guys, has this seen my opponent coming for me with an attack? And how many of you look at your minimap and it doesn't look anything like this? This is how you feel comfortable in a game of StarCraft. Overlords around your base, Zerglings out on the map, replace them whenever they die. And if you don't have that as a Zerg, you are missing what Zerg is all about. Now, we're going to just go out and fight him because I have so many units that I feel comfortable. I'm like, hey, I've been building units for a while. Oh, that's nice. We're going to kill an Immortal. It's Immortals and Zealots. Now, this is where we can stutter step micro, guys. We actually want to be in a big ball. And what we're going to do is we're going to stutter step backwards. Move back, aim move. Move back, aim move. Now, you'll notice the reason why is Immortals kick the shit out of roaches. Move back, aim move. Inject, inject, inject. Build roaches. Build some overlords. Ooh, where is he? He's over there still? Okay. We can spread some creep if we want. Oh, no. More micro. So if those Immortals are able to shoot, then we might end up in a lot of trouble. So if we just stand there, those Immortals, you're going to notice my front line melts. But whenever we move, shoot, most of our roaches are attacking, and the Immortals are rarely attacking. we repeat some of the best questions in chat, please, guys? How do you rally overlords to the corner? I select my hatcheries, I build my overlords, and I right-click on the minimap. Just there, I rallied 3 overlords. You see, overlord, overlord, and overlord, and they're all rallied to the back of my base. If I want a scouting overlord, I select a hatchery, I build an overlord, I right-click there, I reselect the hatcheries, I build an overlord, I right-click it over there. This is the same thing where, say I had no one on these gases, and I wanted to build workers for it. I could go select hatcheries, build 3 drones, click, select hatcheries, build 3 drones, click. So these are just nice little shortcuts that make you 1,000 times more efficient. Roach is Zerg's best early ground unit. They're very good early on. Could you do a different build and use Zerglings? If you really wanted to, you could use Zerglings, but you'd need to add Banelings to it. And the problem with Zerglings is they're much more lava inefficient, so you need more hatcheries. So if you just, you might need to get a macro hatch or 2 up. You'd need to be even more hitting your inject swell, and rather than the Roach Warren, you'd need a Baneling nest. Now, obviously, some scenarios you wouldn't really need the Banelings, but if your opponent has a lot of Zealots, a lot of Marines, Hellbats, there's a lot of different unit combinations where the Banelings are going to allow you to bust through those units. The problem, of course, is you are still weak if your opponent, goes lots of Archons and Colossus. Roaches can deal with that army to some extent, up to a certain size. Zerglings kind of never can. So the Roach is the more well-rounded unit. You could argue it's not as fun. It's also tanky, so it's a bit less punishing. If you run your Zerglings into a bad fight, they die very quickly. They're very high damage, low hit point, right? So it's a bit more glass cannon nature, but it's mobile. It's really fun. It's really fun. So why not? Why not use them? If you like them, you can absolutely use them. And I even say in my beginner build order, Roach Horn or Baneling Nest at 36 supply for safety. And it's totally up to you. Happy Buddha said earlier, why do you have to rally there? Why do you have to rally your overlords here? Do you mean these ones to the back? It's because everyone in bronze and silver, whenever they get attacked, all their overlords are at the front of their base at their rally point, and the opponent pushes in. And even though you could win a very close situation, you lose all your overlords. You get supply blocked. Overlords are only 200 hit points. They are the weakest supply depot in the game. A supply depot or a pylon has 400 hit points and 2 armor. This has no armor and 200 hit points. Also, it means when you're trying to organize your units at the front, you've got overlords in your selection, blocking your vision, getting in the way. If you put your overlords at the back, they're out of harm's way, and it means in the case of a base trade, usually you can get them to the dead space, which I guess on this map would be over there. But even up there, or even in just any of these corners, it's going to be very hard for them to kill all those overlords. And if you're in a base trade where you rebuild on the other side of the map, but you keep all your overlords alive, and your opponent's at 50 supply out of 0 supply, because they've lost every depot or pylon, you win. One of the biggest advantages in a base trade is your overlords. Keeping your overlords alive is a frigging massive advantage in base trades, but even just in a dicey situation where your opponent's push gets to here, there's a lot of times you want to pull back behind your natural, wait for another round of units, and then engage. Do you hotkey your spawning pool or Roach Warren? Now, I hotkey my upgrade structures. This is actually on number 6 here, but this is obviously a slightly different key for me because I use a custom setup. But that would swap to Evo chambers. The only reason I put it on that is just to start Ling speed. It's just a habit. You don't need to do it. But that will get replaced by evolution chambers. I don't hotkey any of these structures later on at all. I just click them because we only need 1 upgrade off them usually. The upgrades, though, are going to go on 6, so I can easily do that. Does an overlord count as a building in a base trade? Nope, but an uprooted spore or spine crawler does. So you can have a spore crawler, uproot it, and run it around with your army, and it'll still count as a building. Let's queue another one. Oh! Holy crap, we're already in Platinum League? No way! Oh, that was quick. Oh, awesome. Oh, this is sick. Hey! Gold 3 to Platinum in... How long was that? Like, not even 2 hours? Oh, that was awesome.